All right, guys, welcome to the channel, America's Reality 360. We got another good one today. So, yesterday on Piers Morgan Uncensored, they were talking about the January 6th Capitol riots and a little bit about the 2020 election as well. And Piers had on some good guests. He brought on a Capitol police officer who was there on January 6th, and he brought on Vinny Oshana from the PBD podcast, and he had Jacob Chansley, who you may know as the Qanon Shaman. Now, I do want to help Jacob remove himself from that title because Jacob's an actual person with an actual name, and he's actually very intelligent. Tucker Carlson had him on in the summer last year, and he really showed how he knows a lot more about what's actually happening in this country. And I'm sure, like me, you also know a lot more than the average person. But unfortunately, we have people like Piers Morgan who are totally unaware of what's really going on. And I've heard Piers himself say he gets 5 newspapers a day, New York Times, Washington Post, and that's where he gets all his news from. Only the authoritative sources. And people like Vinny, people like you and me, people like Jacob, we know not to trust those sources as much. And Vinny's going to do a great job of bringing facts to light that most people have not heard about the 2020 election. And that's what I'm going to show here. So I'm probably going to put out a video later breaking down the entire conversation that they had. But this video, I just want to show what Vinny says. He's awesome. He really is adamant to tell Piers about the facts that we now know about what happened with the 2020 election. And Piers is pretty defensive about it, but Vinny's going to do a great job of just really saying the things that we need to say. And in my previous videos, if you've heard me saying we're done and things are going to change, this is exactly what I'm talking about. So let's jump right into it. Check this out. It's awesome. I think you'll enjoy it. Please like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thanks for being here, and I'll catch you on the next one.
All of it has been fascinating to me, and to actually have one of the people who's been pardoned next to one of the police officers and reaching some points of agreement, I think is a really important thing. Vinny, what do you feel about this? The Republicans were split. Many Republicans, including J.D. Vance, did not want the ones who were violent against police officers to be pardoned. It does seem to fly in the face of what most Republicans would think, which is if you commit an act of violence against police, you should not be pardoned. What do you think?
Well, first, Piers, I want to congratulate you. Your friend finally inaugurated into the White House. He's going to stop this bleeding that's been happening with this country. I was there, Piers. I sent your producers a bunch of videos. The guy's done more in 3 days than Joe Biden has done his entire career. The moment we saw him at the Capital One Arena, he sat down and started citing executive orders and got to business. Number one. Number two, Piers, in regards to the Jan 6 and all the pardons and everything, I've met Jacob in person. What the media told us about this guy, he's a monster. He did this. I met him in person. I interviewed him. Amazing guy. Great heart. He's intellectual. He knows what he's talking about. He loves this country. Okay? And what happened on January 6th, I know Wyatt said something about free and fair election. That's what you believe. The American people don't believe that. The majority of us, 81 million votes, all the discrepancies, FBI at Twitter, all the cheating or election interference. I think that day, in regard to Winston about January 6th, my heart goes out to him because to me, he was a victim. For Nancy Pelosi and all them holding back 10,000 National Guard troops, all the games playing, he was a pawn in the game of destroy Donald Trump no matter what, okay?
Oh, but Vinny, let me ask you though, Vinny, I mean, look, that may well be the case. That may well be the case, but it doesn't change the fact that thousands of people, as part of a large group of people, did storm the Capitol, and many of them broke in. And some of them committed acts of violence against police in the process. None of that, I mean, all of it looked appalling. Okay. I got to be, to the rest of the world, it looked like America lost its mind, right? But when you look back on it now, we can debate the nuances of who should have been pardoned and so on. I do think some of the more peaceful protesters got way too big sentences for what it's worth. I don't think they were all violent. They shouldn't be treated the same way. But I do think any violence against police officers, I'm staggered that Donald Trump has pardoned them. Honestly, I am. I wouldn't have done it if I was him. I agree with J.D. Vance's position on that.
But Piers, okay, and Piers, by the way, I was a military police in the United States Air Force. Any violence, period, I'm not for it. But that day, Piers, let's think about it. Where was the insurrection? Who had the guns? Who was violent? The FBI, Christopher Wray. We don't even know how many FBI agents, how many informants, how many people you're shooting rubber bullets in people's faces and acting as if they're not going to be upset. Okay, we saw the footage of everybody inside. Who was shooting? Who was taking over? Where was the insurrection? Where was it, Piers? Donald Trump didn't say, go in there and do all of this. A big group of people came in there. Who knows how much they were freaking
But Vinny, they were all breaking the law.
Yeah, it looks bad.
Vinny, Vinny, they were all breaking the law.
Yes.
We have to agree that, right?
Yes. And okay, Piers, I agree. And do you think, who died that day, Piers? Who was actually, the highest crime is murder, okay? A Capitol Police, Michael Byrd, shot Ashley Babbitt and murdered her. Okay, unarmed United States Air Force veteran. What he got pardoned as well. Okay, and yes, Piers, it looked bad, but you know what? When the system, you believe the system's cheating you, you go to the system and you protest. And when he was talking about BLM and all the riots, everybody burned down their own city. Why the hell would you do that? If you have a problem with the police department, go to the police department. Why are you burning down black-owned businesses? Why are you burning down black-owned businesses? Why are you burning down your city? Okay, these people felt like they were cheated. And you know what? The facts have come out. They were. So they went to protest. And unless we find out with all the evidence that was destroyed, who was involved, who was in there, Antifa people dressed as Trump supporters, FBI agents inside the Capitol, unless we have all those facts, Piers, you don't know who was actually at fault and who was doing what.
Okay, I mean, what I would say about, we now know that they were cheated. Actually, we don't, because there's never been any evidence produced that 2020 election was rigged. Donald Trump keeps saying it. I wish he wouldn't. He doesn't need to say it. He's won big now. He doesn't need to go back over that again. But actually, including Republican judges, nobody has ever found any concrete evidence that election was rigged. So the reason why people... hang on, Vinny. The reason why people were protesting in the way they did was because they believed it. I certainly believe that. But the reality is it's never been backed up by actual hard evidence, even by Republican judges who've studied it. So this premise that somehow it was illegally stolen from Donald Trump the first time, I've said it to his face, and I believe it now, just as I still believe what I wrote in that column that Wajahat quoted from earlier. I just think that there are certain things where people can continue to say it was stolen and rigged and so on, but you've got to actually at some point stump up the hard evidence, and it's never happened.
May I say something, Piers?
Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah.
Hang on, Vinny. I'll come back to you. Let Wajahat respond, and then I'll come back to you.
Yeah, Piers,
the greatest, arguably, the Capitol. You don't ever want to see that kind of thing again.
No, you don't. And the thing is, we have
sorry,
to
Jacob. That was for Vinny, actually. That was for Vinny, actually. Sorry.
Oh, I'm
Jacob.
sorry.
Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah. No, it's all good, Jacob. Well, Piers, I mean, at the end of the day, this violent rhetoric that Waj was talking about, like the violent rhetoric, the majority of it, the 99% of it was from the other side. And Piers, you guys keep talking about free and fair election and there's no evidence. You want me to believe the same justice system that has been trying to destroy Trump for freaking 9 years, to believe them when it comes to an election, Piers. I don't. The irregularities were all over the place. Your guys' circle, your bubble, you don't see it. We've seen it.
Well, no,
okay?
what I would say,
I've seen
Vinny,
the documentaries.
Vinny, to be clear, what I would say is even Republican judges have not established that. So even the judges on your side have not been able to establish what you're saying.
Well,
he lost,
Piers,
Vinny. It's
Piers,
okay.
I don't
He
have
lost
a
in
side.
2020.
I'm not a Republican. Piers, I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not, Piers. I vote for what's right, okay? I vote for what's right and what's wrong. And the Republican, when you say Republican, you label them Republican. Liz Cheney's a Republican.
Right.
Who the hell in the Republican Party trusts her, Piers? So yes, Piers, the day was ugly. I guarantee this guy can't even define insurrection. Nobody was shooting. Nobody was doing anything. They were pissed off, Piers, and they had a right to be pissed off. And like I said it again, if you have a problem with the system, Piers, you go to the system. You don't burn down your city. And he was saying, how long did the BLM riots go for? Cops were murdered, and he's saying nothing violent happened. They were throwing Molotov cocktails that were hitting police officers. And if we don't want it, Piers, we don't want this to ever happen again. Okay, we have to be open. We have to be transparent. Okay, when questions are asked, the government has to answer them, Piers. And when the president, the sitting president, requests 10,000 National Guard troops, his request should be answered. Okay, Piers? It was a
Okay.
shit
May
show
I
from the
respond very
beginning
quickly?
to the end, and Pelosi and them wanted it. Let me finish. And they used it, Piers. They've been using it. Just like Russia collusion didn't work, Piers. This was their Russian collusion of 2000 for this
All right.
election.
All
They
right.
thought this was going to be the, oh, got you.